Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. These stories take hours of research and careful storytelling, and your subscription helps keep these forgotten histories alive. And tonight's story is one that Louisiana itself tried to forget. In the summer of 1923, deep in the Louisiana swamps, there stood a house that did not belong. It wasn't abandoned. It wasn't ruined. It wasn't even old enough to be forgotten. But no one went near it. The locals called it simply the Lowry House. It stood alone on rotting wooden stilts, surrounded by black water that never reflected the sky. Cypress trees leaned toward it like silent witnesses. Spanish moss hung heavy in the air, unmoving even when the wind passed through the swamp. From a distance, the house looked ordinary. White paint, tall windows, a wide porch. But anyone who got close enough noticed something was wrong. The windows were always open, all of them, day and night, even during storms, even when no one lived there, even after what happened to the Lowry family. It began when Jonathan Lowry arrived in Louisiana in early spring of 1923. He was not a poor man, nor was he born to the swamp. He came from Mississippi, carrying money, confidence, and a strange urgency to settle somewhere isolated. He purchased the land without negotiation, paid in full, cash. The locals found this unusual. The land he bought wasn't considered useful. The swamp flooded constantly. The soil was unstable. Even animals avoided certain parts of it. But Jonathan Lowry insisted. Within weeks, construction began. Workers built the house quickly. Too quickly. They drove wooden stilts deep into the wet earth. They raised a frame, installed windows, painted it white. But the workers didn't stay long. Several refused to finish the job. One left in the middle of the day, refusing payment. Another warned Lowry directly. "This ground isn't right," the worker had said. "It shifts, breathes." Lowry ignored him. By June, the house was complete, and Jonathan Lowry moved in. He did not come alone. His wife, Eleanor, arrived with him, a quiet woman, pale, rarely seen speaking, and their 2 children, Samuel, age 11, Clara, age 7. They brought only what they needed: clothes, furniture, and several locked wooden trunks no one saw opened. The family kept to themselves. They did not attend church. They did not visit town. They did not welcome visitors. But the locals noticed things, strange things, lights inside the house at unusual hours, movement on the porch long after midnight. Jonathan Lowry standing at the edge of the swamp, staring into the water as if listening, waiting. One fisherman, passing by at dusk, claimed he saw Clara Lowry standing in the swamp itself, not on the porch, not on land, but standing ankle-deep in the black water, alone, not moving. He called out to her. She didn't respond. She didn't even blink. He left quickly and never returned. By August, rumors had spread. People said the family didn't sleep. They said the children were seen awake at hours no child should be awake. They said Eleanor Lowry walked the house at night without a lantern, as if she didn't need light to see. Then came the sounds, at first faint, almost mistaken for animals. Knocking, slow, rhythmic, from beneath the house. One neighbor claimed he heard it while passing the swamp trail. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, pause, repeating. He assumed it was with shifting, until he realized it only happened at night, and only when the lights inside the house were on. Jonathan Lowry never spoke of it, but his behavior began to change. He stopped coming into town entirely, stopped buying supplies, stopped speaking to anyone. The family became isolated completely. And yet, the lights never went out. Not once, not even during storms, not even when lightning struck nearby trees, not even when floodwaters rose high enough to reach the base of the stilts. The house remained lit, awake, watching. Then, in late September of 1923, a letter arrived at the local post office. It was addressed to no one, no name, no return address. Inside was a single sentence, written in uneven handwriting. "It knows we are here." No one knew who wrote it, but everyone suspected the same thing. Jonathan Lowry. The postmaster attempted to visit the house. He never reached the porch. He later claimed the ground beneath him had shifted suddenly, as if something beneath the swamp had moved. He turned back and refused to return. After that, the swamp grew quieter. Too quiet. No birds nested nearby. No animals crossed the trail. The water became still, heavy, unnatural. And then, on October 17th, 1923, the lights inside the Lowry house went out. For the first time since the family arrived. They never turned back on. But no one went to check. Not immediately. Because deep down, everyone already knew something had happened. Something final. Something the swamp had been waiting for. And the house was still standing, waiting. For 2 weeks after the lights went out, no one approached the Lowry house. Not out of respect, but out of fear. Because in the swamp, silence meant something had changed. And whatever had changed was rarely good. The trail leading to the house grew over quickly. Mud swallowed footprints. Water rose and fell with no pattern. Even the air felt heavier near that part of the swamp. But eventually, curiosity overcame fear. On November 2nd, 1923, a man named Paul Mercer decided to go. Paul was not brave. He was practical. He worked as a supply runner, delivering goods between towns along the Louisiana waterways. He had passed the Lowry property many times over the past months. He had seen the lights, seen Jonathan standing in the swamp, and he had seen the darkness that replaced them. He told himself the family had simply left, abandoned the house, left it to rot like so many others. But something about the way it happened didn't feel right. So that morning, he took a small boat and followed the narrow water path toward the property. The swamp was unusually still. No insects buzzed. No birds called. Even the water barely moved beneath his boat. It felt like entering a place that did not want visitors. When the house came into view, Paul stopped rowing. It looked exactly the same. White paint, open windows, unmoving porch. Nothing broken, nothing disturbed, except the front door was slightly open, just enough to notice. Paul stepped onto the wooden walkway carefully. The boards creaked beneath his weight, louder than they should have, as if the house were reacting to his presence. He reached the porch. The door moved slightly with the wind. Slow, uncertain, Paul pushed it open. The inside of the house smelled wrong, not like decay, not like rot, but stale, unused, frozen in time. Furniture remained in place. Chairs, table, books on a shelf. Everything exactly where it had been left. But there was no dust, no signs of abandonment. It looked as if the family had simply stepped outside moments ago. Paul stepped further inside. His boots echoed against the wooden floor. Too loudly, too clearly. He called out, "Mr. Lowry?" No response. He walked into the main room. The children's toys were still there. A small wooden horse lay on its side. A cloth doll rested in a chair. Watching the empty room, Paul felt a tightness in his chest. Something was wrong. Very wrong. People didn't leave like this. They didn't leave everything behind. Unless they never intended to leave. He moved toward the staircase. Each step groaned beneath him, the sound spreading through the silent house. Upstairs, the bedrooms were intact. Beds made, clothes folded, nothing disturbed. But in the master bedroom, he found something strange. A notebook sitting on the small desk beside the window. Paul picked it up carefully. It belonged to Jonathan Lowry. The first pages were normal. Dates, notes about the house, weather observations, water levels. But the later pages changed. The writing became uneven, unstable. Some words scratched deeply into the paper, as if written under pressure. One entry read, "November 3rd, it moves at night." Another, "November 6th, the knocking is closer now." And another, "November 9th, Clara hears it calling her." Paul swallowed hard. He turned to the last page. The writing was barely readable, shaking, desperate. "We should not have come here." Beneath that, one final sentence. "It is beneath us." Paul dropped the notebook, his hands trembling. He suddenly became aware of something else. A sound, soft, faint, from below. A knock. Paul froze. 3 slow knocks. From beneath the floor, he stared down, his breath shallow. The sound came again. Closer. He backed away slowly. Every instinct told him to leave, to run, but fear had already taken hold. He moved back toward the stairs. Then, the floor beneath him shifted. Not broken, not collapsed. Shifted, as if something beneath it had moved. Paul ran, down the stairs, across the room, through the open door. He didn't stop until he reached his boat. He pushed away from the house violently, his heart racing, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He didn't look back, not once. When he returned to town, he told everyone what he saw. The empty house, the notebook, the knocking beneath the floor. No one doubted him, because they had heard it too, long before the family vanished. After that day, no one entered the Lowry house again. But the swamp did not forget, because sometimes, at night, the lights returned. Not all of them, just one, in the upstairs window. And sometimes, if you listened carefully, you could still hear it, knocking, waiting, beneath the house. After Paul Mercer's visit, the Lowry house stopped being just an abandoned home. It became something else, a place people avoided completely. Even speaking about it felt wrong. But silence never stops curiosity forever. By December 1923, the story had spread beyond the small Louisiana town. People in neighboring areas began hearing about the swamp house where an entire family vanished without taking anything with them. Most dismissed it as rumor. Others believed something far worse. One of those people was a man named Henry Bell. Henry was older, experienced. He had spent most of his life working land others were too afraid to touch. Flood zones, unstable ground, dangerous terrain. He did not believe in ghost stories. He believed in explanations. And he believed the Lowry house had won. Henry arrived in town quietly. He didn't tell many people why he came. But those who spoke to him noticed something different about him. He wasn't afraid. That alone made people nervous. Henry visited Paul Mercer first. He asked him everything. About the notebook, the knocking, the shifting floor. Paul told him the truth, every detail. Henry listened carefully, then asked one question. "Did you see beneath the house?" Paul shook his head immediately. "No," he said, "and I wasn't going to." Henry nodded slowly. That evening, Henry prepared his equipment, a lantern, a rope, a long iron rod. He took his boat at sunrise the next morning. The swamp was colder than usual. Mist clung to the surface of the water. The trees stood motionless, like they were watching him pass. When the house came into view, Henry felt it immediately. Not fear, pressure, like the air itself had weight. He tied his boat to the wooden stilts and stepped onto the walkway. The house looked unchanged. Still, silent, waiting. Henry didn't go inside. Instead, he walked around the side, toward the back, toward the swamp beneath the structure. The house stood several feet above the water, supported by thick wooden stilts driven deep into the swamp floor. Henry stepped carefully into the shallow water beneath the house. It was colder than it should have been. Still, heavy. He raised his lantern. The light revealed something unusual. The ground beneath the house wasn't solid. It wasn't mud. It wasn't water. It was both. A thick, black mixture that shifted slowly, even when nothing touched it. Henry pushed the iron rod into it. It sank easily. Too easily. Deeper than it should have. He pushed further. The rod kept going, as if there was no bottom. Henry pulled it back suddenly. Something about it felt wrong. He moved to another spot. Pushed again. The same result. Bottomless. Then he heard it. A knock. Not from above. From below. Beneath the swamp itself. Henry froze. He listened carefully. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. The exact pattern Paul described. Henry stepped backward slowly. The water around his boots shifted slightly. Moving. Not from his steps. From beneath. He raised the lantern higher. The surface of the swamp rippled. Gently. As if something large had moved far below. Watching. Henry left immediately. Not running. But not stopping. He returned to town and spoke to the oldest resident he could find, a woman named Margaret Ellis. She had lived near the swamp longer than anyone. Henry asked her about the land. She was silent for a long time. Then she spoke. That land was never meant for houses. Henry listened carefully. She told him something no one else had mentioned. Long before the Lowry family arrived, long before the town existed, that part of the swamp had no bottom. Animals avoided it. Trees didn't grow properly near it. And sometimes things disappeared into it. Not quickly, slowly, as if pulled down over time. Henry asked her why no one warned Jonathan Lowry. Margaret looked at him carefully. "We did," she said. "He just didn't listen." Henry understood then. The swamp didn't swallow things suddenly. It took them patiently, quietly, over time. The house wasn't built on solid ground. It was built on something unstable, something alive. And the knocking wasn't coming from inside the house. It was coming from beneath it. That night, Henry made his decision. The house had to be destroyed, not for safety, but to stop whatever was happening beneath it. Because if the swamp could take a house, it could take more. Henry Bell didn't sleep that night. He sat at the small wooden desk in his rented room, staring at the lantern flame as it flickered in the darkness. He kept hearing the knocks in his mind. 3. Pause. 3. He knew one thing for certain now. The Lowry family hadn't simply left. They had been taken, not by a person, but by the swamp itself. And if nothing was done, the house would remain there, waiting. Henry gathered help the next morning. Not many volunteered. Most refused immediately. But 2 men agreed, Thomas Reed and Samuel Clark. Both had worked difficult land before. Both trusted Henry's judgment. They didn't believe in curses, but they believed in danger. Henry explained his plan clearly. They would destroy the house, burn it, remove its weight from the unstable ground beneath it, and end whatever process had begun. They prepared carefully. Oil, torches, tools. They left at dusk. The swamp was quieter than usual. No birds, no insects, only the slow movement of water beneath their boat. When the house appeared through the trees, all 3 men felt it. That same pressure, that same unnatural stillness. They tied their boat and stepped onto the walkway, though it creaked beneath their weight. The house stood exactly as before, unchanged, untouched, waiting. Henry lit the first torch. He hesitated only briefly, then pressed the flame against the dry wood of the outer wall. The fire caught slowly, then spread, climbing upward. Hungry, alive, Thomas and Samuel lit other sections. Within minutes, flames surrounded the structure. The fire cracked loudly, breaking the silence that had hung over the swamp for months. Smoke rose into the sky. For a moment, nothing else happened. Then, the knocking began. From beneath the house, louder than before. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Thomas froze. "You hear that?" he whispered. Henry didn't answer. He already knew. The water beneath the house began to move. Not from wind, not from heat, from below. The stilts supporting the house creaked loudly. One of them shifted. Then another. Samuel stepped backward, quickly. "The ground's moving," he said. Henry grabbed his arm. "Get back to the boat." The fire continued spreading rapidly. The structure weakened. The swamp beneath it shifted more violently now. The water rippled outward, circles spreading in every direction. Then a loud crack split the air. One of the main support stilts snapped. The house tilted slightly. The knocking stopped. For a single moment, everything went silent. Then the swamp pulled. Slowly, the house sank an inch. Then another. Wood cracked. Walls bent. The entire structure leaned deeper into the black water. Thomas stared in disbelief. "It's sinking," he whispered. Henry didn't respond. He couldn't look away. The swamp wasn't collapsing. It was accepting, pulling the house downward patiently. The fire still burned as the lower half of the structure disappeared beneath the surface. Flames reflected in the water, distorted, broken. Samuel pointed suddenly. "There!" Henry followed his gaze. For a moment, just a moment, he saw something beneath the surface. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. A shape, tall, standing upright, impossible beneath water. Then it vanished. The house sank further. The roof tilted sharply. Flames died as water swallowed them, would crack loudly one final time. Then, the Lowry house disappeared completely. The swamp closed over it. The water returned to stillness, as if nothing had ever been there. No wreckage, no debris, no remains, only dark water, silent, waiting. The three men stood frozen. No one spoke. No one moved. The knocking never returned. Henry and the others left immediately. They never returned. And none of them ever spoke publicly about what they saw beneath the water. But the story didn't end there, because years later, people traveling through the Louisiana swamps reported something strange. On quiet nights, when the water was perfectly still, they heard knocking, 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks, coming from beneath the swamp. Some claimed to see shapes beneath the surface, standing, watching, waiting. The exact spot where the Lowry house once stood was never built on again, not because of law, but because of fear. The swamp remained untouched, unchanged. Locals avoided it completely. They gave a name, the Sunken House. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to the Lowry family. No bodies were ever found, no belongings recovered, no explanation proven. Only the notebook remained, with its final unfinished sentence. It's under the house. And sometimes, late at night, when storms pass through Louisiana and the swamp becomes restless, people say you can still hear it, knocking 3 times, pause 3 times, as if something beneath the water is still trying to come out.